Nutrition plays a massive role in any event and any course, and because this site's already a physics simulator that can tell how long it's going to take you to complete it, and a weather forecaster, so you can figure out what weather is going to happen where, we have all of that data, might as well make it a predictor of the macronutrients burned, the calories burned, the sodium loss, the water loss, and then provide some of the common industry electrolyte drinks, mixed carbohydrate drinks, and gels, and let you select those and show how many you might want to take with you in order to counter that loss. So let's explore that. First things first, you need a course. In this case, I'm just going to choose the Big Sugar course. And then you need to run the simulation. Now this must be ran with weather because a lot of those nutrients information quite dependent on how much sodium you're going to lose. Kind of need to know what the humidity is going to be. So let's do that calculation. And you can see the little guy is off, the calculation is done, we know how long it's going to take, and we have all this other info over there. But let's move on to the thing we're here for, and that's nutrition. So if I click on this, it's going to have me enter my age, my FTP, and if you don't know what that is, it's about what power you think you can hold for an hour. And this is what's going to give intensity. And intensity is a big deal for how many carbs you're going to break down in comparison to your other macronutrients. And this does take into account these watts that you put in here, your average watts around the course, as well as your height, weight, and those things. And we do have age and gender for your metabolic rate. Moving down, for those of you who prefer only gels, you can just choose that as an option, or only drink mix. That's also a standalone option as well, but I personally do gels and drink mix. And then you can choose bottle size. This makes it really easy to prepare how many bottles am I going to take. And I always run with the biggest bottles, so I'm choosing the 1,000 milliliter or 1 liter ones. And then we have the different options available for gels. This is going to be an ever-expanding list. I'm probably just going to include practically all of them. And then we also have a list of different cycling drink mixes. In this case, I'm going with my favorite one, not sponsor or anything. It's just generally the one that I end up using, the super high carb one from scratch. Now, if I click Compute Nutrition, this whole area fills out with information. Looks like this course at this rate will burn approximately 5,300 calories, this many carbs, not much fat, so on and so forth. And number of gels recommended is 0. Number of bottles of carbohydrate mix is 5.33. You might find that interesting, but at this intensity, because it's kind of a lower intensity, yes, it's a longer event, I'm not actually burning that much amount of carbs in comparison to some of the other macronutrients. And because of that, the amount of carbs in that super high carb per liter drink is enough to cover me, and I don't really need to bring any extra, which is actually the design of this particular drink. So if I decide to change this or change the intensity, the number of gels does actually change. So if I change this, for instance, to 230, this would make it a ridiculously intense effort if you were holding 200 watts and your FTP were 230 for 5.5 hours. But as you can see, that affects how many carbs are burned, and that affects how many gels you are going to use. Let's just change that back. If you explore some of the other options, something perhaps that has a lot less carbs per liter, you can see now it's recommending 20 gels, and it's kind of sticking that same 5.33 amount of bottles of water. And the reason why is, well, it doesn't really change much how much hydration you're supposed to have. And we could do things like just gels. And just gels is interesting because it's going to assume that you're only going to use water. You can try some different options here when it comes to gels, and you kind of get the gist of it. So given all of that other information, the weather information, how long it's going to take, the intensity, and all of those other things that you input before to run the simulation, you can figure out beforehand how many calories you're going to burn, how many carbs you're going to burn, what the protein and fat breakdown is going to look like, how many electrolytes you might want to bring, what your fluid loss is going to be. And it really sets you up in a good spot to make good decisions come race day. And that's the whole idea about this particular feature.